Hey folks, welcome back. It's a beautiful day out here in central Ontario, albeit a little bit cold, and well, we're still completely surrounded in snow, but I've got a log ready to go, and that's what makes it even more beautiful. I'm going to put this spruce up here on my brand new Clarke sawmill. This is a model 350/38. We'll get it up there today. I'll fire up the diesel, and then we'll see what this thing can do. If you have a look at the sawmill, it is completely clean at this point. What you're seeing is a little bit of oil residue. It's not actually oil. It's undercoating spray. I put that on there after it was freshly washed, just so that I could keep any rust over the long term down. So that's what you're seeing here, but there is certainly no dust on here, and I want to change that right now. And that's why this log's going up onto there. Now, what you'll notice here is I'm brand new at this, and so if you see me going a little bit slow, that's because I've never cut anything on this sawmill before, and you got to take it slow. This piece of equipment certainly can rip through a log, but you got to have an operator that can do the same. And I want to make sure I'm confident in everything. I know exactly what to expect. I don't want to get ahead of myself. And so I'll take things slow today, and that's what you're going to be seeing. But that's what we're dealing with. That right there, 37 horsepower Kubota diesel, 26-inch steel band wheels. The the blade rides directly on those steel band wheels. No belts there at all. That's a 2-inch blade up here. If we make our way up here, you can see it. There it is there. We've got our guide rollers. We've got diesel. There's going to be about 1 drip per second coming down on both sides of the blade. Down there onto the felt pad. Likewise right here onto the felt pad. We'll probably fire up the debarker just so I can give it a go today. That's this unit right here. And some other things. We've got the lasers. I'll turn them on just so you can see them. There's one on both sides there. And as for this sawmill, as for the lasers, the set works I'll talk about, I'll put all the descriptions down below in the video description. I'll put the links if you're interested in finding out more about it. Just in a minute, we'll fire up the blade tensioning system. We'll get that ready to go. Up here, if you recall, that's the control system, control center we'll call it. There's my set works. We're not going to use set works here today. I'm going to just go through a manual process of sawing a log. In future videos, we'll have the set works up and running. That's going to be the scale I'm using to cut with here today. And looking back up this way, there's the business end of the saw. There's the drag back arms. Those will drag the lumber back to here, and then I'll unload it. And I don't have a setup right now, as you can see. I'm just barely getting by with the winter still in full effect. And so we're just going to put the slabs here. I will have a process in place, which I'll show you in another video. But we're going to let the melt take hold here for a little bit longer. On this side, we have the guide arm, so that's hydraulically controlled. You'll see me using that here today. And a little bit further up, you'll see me using the end feed toe boards, the log roller, the log clamp, the log stops on that side. They'll raise up. And I think that's it. That's what we're up against here today. I am super excited, to say the least, and I'm certainly glad you're all here for this. Here we go. All right, first things first, these right here, my earmuffs, I actually leave them here. At least I thought that'd be a good idea. That way I never forget to tension the blade. Now, how we're going to tension the blade is pretty straightforward. Of course, if you've never used a hydraulic system like this, you may find it a little challenging at the start, but it's pretty simple. Turn that to the left. I'm reading off this gauge here. I'm going up to 800 PSI for this size blade. The blade thickness I'm using is 0.042 inches. And basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this lever. And I'm just watching this right here. A little further. And if you look right there, that's 800. We'll close that valve. This valve prevents the seals inside our pump here, or inside our pump, from wearing out. And that'll just hold that pressure nice and firm. Up here, what we're going to do, we'll fire up the engine. And we'll let that warm up a little bit here. It's kind of chilly today, below freezing, but we'll let that warm up. Once it gets up to operating temperature, you're going to see me increase the engine RPM. I'm going to cut at 2400 RPM. All right, let's increase the idle here a little bit. So it has 4 idle speeds, or 4 RPM settings, I guess we'll call it. It has, I think, 1,000 RPM, 1,400, 1,850, and then 2,400 RPM is what that engine will operate at. And as I said, that's a 37 horse Kubota diesel, so it'll have lots of torque there. Once it gets a little bit warmer, we'll bump it up, and then I'll show you how we engage the blade. Now, to engage the blade, you're going to engage it at low RPM. Lock that clutch into place, make sure the blade is turning as it's supposed to, and then you'll bump that RPM back up to 2,400 and start your cutting. Obviously, we'll get the log up there before that, but that'll all happen at top RPM, 2,400. here she goes. Okay, looks good, lock it in. You get a look down there. That's exactly what we want. We want that blade to look like a pencil line. That is the beautiful thing. I'm just about ready to cut. What we'll do, we'll increase the RPM. We'll get close to the log, and then I'm gonna hit the blade lube. That'll start the drip. Well, I gotta tell you, despite me being incredibly focused up there at the controls just to make sure that I was doing everything that I should, I was smiling from ear to ear inside my head. That was so much fun. For someone who really enjoys sawing lumber, I don't know if it gets much better than this. I am certainly not used to this setup at this point. This just got here not all that long ago. I've gone through the controls, making sure I had a general idea where things were, but I certainly don't know how everything is operating at 100% speed yet, so I'm moving slower than I probably will. Now keep in mind, smooth is fast, and so as I get more accustomed to doing things, following a sort of muscle memory in my head, I'll get a lot smoother, and then subsequently I'll get faster. I think that will come with anything. That'll come with time. Now overall, I found the controls worked out quite well. I thought, you know, there's an awful lot of controls up there. I might have a hard time remembering where stuff is for what particular function, but I found I didn't. There was two things in particular I noticed that obviously some foresight went into, and that was these controls right here. Notice how they're higher than some of the other ones, and I often wondered why those might be. One is for the log clamps, one is for the log turner. Now I know. If you're going to roll the log with the log turner, you need to release the log clamps, and because of that, having them nice and high, you more or less take your hands from cutting position, which is forward or reverse or fast reverse or fast forward, and the blade position, blade up and down. You take it from there, you bump them up here, and then you can release those clamps, turn the log as you need, and then tighten the clamps again, and then back your hands go to forward to cut with the blade up and down. That's pretty intuitive. That's a pretty good idea there, and I think as time goes on, I'll get better and better at that. Just some other things to remember, just like any piece of equipment. When you fire up the engine, you just remember you engage the blade at low RPM, and then you bring the RPM up. Obviously, you got to remember to tension the blade. You have to remember you've got your blade loop switch there. For me, I like using the lasers. It just makes it so that I can see where the log clamps are, the log stops in relation to the blade. Makes it so I don't have any accidents. I'm not even going to say the words, what can happen. But that laser's nice that way. Other things I noticed here right off the start, I kept standing back here, and I kept thinking to myself that I had to move. I had to go up there to deal with the log after I made a cut. And then my brain kicked back in and like, hold on here, Sandy. You got a command station, if you will. This sawmill will do all that stuff that you used to have to do yourself for you. So stay put. And I did. I stayed here the whole time. I didn't do anything. I think maybe once I might have moved some of the material off the tray here just to make room. But this tray is pretty big as it is, so I ended up just pushing some of it over as more material came, and I didn't actually leave here much at all. But that's something to get used to. I'm certainly not used to having all the material start off there and then end up here. Now that brings me to my next point, and I'm sure many of you are probably thinking the same thing I am. How am I going to handle the material? This thing's going to saw wood like no tomorrow. How am I going to handle it? I've got a plan in place, and well, let's just hope this warm weather they're calling for hits, because then I can put that plan into place and you'll see my layout that I think is going to make things even better. I'm certainly not going to be throwing lumber on the ground like this or the slabs. I've got a plan. I've also got a tractor and equipment like that, so I'll have it as a fine-tuned machine here before too long. This was just the first cut, and I'm happy to say it went well, and so I'll be on to continuing. And for those of you who are out there wondering where my source of logs are coming from, I don't just have logs right here in this red pine forest. I have logs all around the red pine forest. I also have logs that don't necessarily come from this property here. So I have logs from all over. I certainly have plans in place. There's stuff going on behind the scenes. And so don't think that you're going to always see the same type of lumber coming off the sawmill. You're going to get a great variety. Anyways, that's going to do it for me here today. I think that was so much fun that I'm going to have to do another one. Hopefully you come back and join me for that. And if you have any questions about this sawmill, you maybe want to see a bit of a up-close tour at the factory, be sure to tune into one of my previous videos. I'll put it at the end of this one. Melvin, the owner of Clarke Sawmills, he worked on designing, fabricating, and well, runs Clarke Sawmills. He gave me a tour while I was down there recently, and you can check that out in a previous video. As always, if you like this video, make sure you give it the old like-a-roo. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.